Okay, so this is our MELT Stations Lab. I've been thinking about doing stations this year, and with us doing a lot of remote teaching, this may be more difficult, or with social distancing. So stations are a good way for you to have a lot of interaction without a lot of materials. An adaptation for that this year, maybe having just working in partners and either rotating the materials or having one person do it and the other person record. So I still think that we can get some hands-on things done, and stations will be one way of doing that. So this MELTS, if you have not used acronyms with your kids to help them remember, this is going to be on different forms of energy for mechanical, electrical, light, thermal, and sound. I also use in my class Mrs. Chen as another one. But the purpose of this is not really to teach the different types of energy, because they have been introduced to them in elementary school. It's mostly a review, and I usually do it near the beginning of the unit just to kind of refresh their memory about a lot of the things. So each station focuses on a different type of energy, and they view it, and then they have to draw what they see and label where the different forms of energy are. So these are some of the different stations that you might have with that. You'll have a student answer sheet that you can use. I always put light in there. You can use whatever form of a lot of these things that you want, obviously, but you'll be getting some clamp lights, and that's a good one. Just remind them, like with most things, about safety and about touching the lamp, because they do get hot. Some of them don't believe it. Fortunately, it doesn't burn them enough that it has any lasting damage, but it kind of proves the point when they want to test you on that. Another form of energy that is in there is electrical. It says to set up the circuit in the way that the diagram shows, and I have not provided a diagram. You can set it up with whatever materials you have. Sometimes I set it up with a motor, sometimes I put a switch in it, sometimes I put a light bulb, whatever materials. The point is for them to see the circuit and turn it on and off to recognize that it's electrical energy, and so it really doesn't matter what you have. I just put a little picture or draw it on a little tiny whiteboard and put it so that they know what they're working on. Sound energy is one that they are familiar with, but they may or may not have had a lot of hands-on with sound in elementary school to recognize really what's meant by that vibration. So tuning forks are a great way of doing that. You just use the little rubber mallet. Remember to demonstrate this first. They do a lot of things the wrong way, and so they get some very mixed results, but they only need to tap it one time. They probably will not think that they have anything to listen to because it is very quiet. So if they will put it up to their ear, they can hear it. Another cool thing to have them do is to take it and actually touch it to themselves. They can feel the vibrations with that tuning fork. I have had them use the edge of a book. You can obviously create the vibrations like this, and even though you can't hear anything, if you put it up to your ear, it is very obvious the sound. But most of the time they need help doing that. They don't recognize that they actually have created the sound. It's fun to touch their glasses or earrings, and they can feel the vibrations. You even could put it on a piece of paper with salt, and you can see the vibrations generated. And that obviously is part of the definition that they learn for sound. But I think that they forget that part when it comes to middle school. It kind of passes right by them. Another form of energy is chemical energy. Anytime that you're doing something like that, you need to remember to encourage safety. So provide goggles. You'll need, especially this year, to be sure you're wiping them off in between use. And if you're doing it, you're modeling good safety practices. So here are my goggles. Y'all know the complaints I have about how it's hot and hurts and everything else. So the chemical reaction that they will be viewing has to do with calcium chloride. It's a solid. I always have them write their observations before they ever start, because I want them to really notice how they know a chemical reaction has occurred. This is a solid. It does tend to absorb humidity quite easily. So that is one of the reasons that I usually pre-measure this for them. I also have students that when you work in groups, everybody grabs a baggie and they don't need each person in the group to do it. So this sort of eliminates having too much used when they don't know how to measure accurately and a lot of things like that. So I put a baggie at the station with the calcium chloride in there. Then they're going to add the water. The precise measurement is not that critical. They're just observing it. But this will be a fun one for them. It doesn't seem to step on the toes of the things that they do in 7th grade, which I like. But when they mix it, they immediately notice that it's dissolving, but it actually gets quite warm to the touch. And whoops, I didn't have the baggie closed all the way, so we may or may not be able to see it, but it does produce a gas. I think the baggie was not sealed all the way, so we may not see the bag inflate. It does inflate. It does not pop the bag after it's pretty warm. So I encourage them to pass it around. A lot of them want to hold it at the top, but I encourage them to hold it at the bottom, and that's when they realize it, and then it will cool off at the end. So they're pretty shocked by the fact that the cold water from the sink actually is pretty hot to the touch. So this can just be, that I usually just have them crack it to release the gas, and then I collect it from them and dispose it. This can just be thrown in the trash after you're through with it. I don't bother to reuse the bags, obviously, but I don't have them handle that for safety reasons. But that's a great little thing to just remind them they always have fun with chemical reactions, and their expectation is things are going to explode, obviously. And so this is a good reminder that chemical reactions, that's not the only sign that a chemical reaction has occurred. All right. We also talk about mechanical energy. And mechanical energy is the one that they really don't know that word at all. In 5th grade, they talk about force and motion, but they don't really think about that in the terms of potential and kinetic. So that's going to be new vocabulary for them. And as they do that station, they may not have those words at all, but they can see the movement, and it will lead you into the further discussion that you will be having in later activities.